Love me some Futurama. From Simpsons creator Matt Groening, I've considered it his vastly superior show for a very long time, as it has a lot more clever writing of comedy, character dynamics, and other aspects, sci fi goodies that include actual knowledge of real life science. No, I'm not an atheist on Reddit. I am a good, swole individual whose jobs is trading stocks online, and many more. Fry, being an outcast of the late 20th century whose job is that of a wagey pizza delivery boy, is an individual who by accident freezes himself forward in time to the 31st century. And here we get to meet a main cast of other colorful characters such as Bender, the selfish, alcoholic, but very lovable jerk of a robot, who's great at everything. Leela, the Cyclops mutant that's hard at work and pilots around the ship. Dr. Zoidberg, the crab lobster creature surgeon who's very lonely. Amy Wong, the Asian intern from Mars who happens to be ditzy. Hermes Conrad, the Jamaican bureaucrat who is also a retired limbo Olympic athlete. And Professor Farnsworth, the old coot, who also happens to be the founder of a delivery service corporation that these aforementioned characters work at together, called Planet Express. However, there was a secret lost episode of Futurama that never aired on Fox, Comedy Central, Adult Swim, Sci Fi, or Hulu or BET, and nobody has ever heard of it, but I am telling you about it right now. So much so, I found this downloadable content from my friend. I won't reveal his name nor any other information, so please bear with me as this is my last ditch effort to stay afloat in this dying, decaying piece of what we call America. The episode opens up in a rather usual manner, showing the overhead view of the Planet Express in a sunny afternoon with a few hover cars flying around. You know that theme song. No, there was no message at the bottom of the screen like they usually do. I mean, well, there was one, but it was something forgettable. No crazy, scary, cliche Frank Sinatra robot calculon's going to kill you because Sid Vicious ruined my way message, whatever. No, the episode begins in the doctor's office with Zoidberg munching on a lot of things, as he often does, but this is where it gets surreal. I mean, yes, in a typical Futurama fashion, but also in a strange way. Kind of hard to describe. Zoidberg was snorting something white and powdery, and he was looking rather hyperactive. His eyes were noticeably bloodshot, and he was wiggling around the place. Farnsworth walks in, but Zoidberg, all hypertentively spasming, pukes out meatworms from his mouth before fainting. Farnsworth was calling for Zoidberg to get in the conference room to discuss the next Planet Express delivery, but there was no response. Hermes walks in, both in utter shock and disappointment, and exclaims, Zoidberg, you rotten crab! What in Idris Elba are you doing lying down on the floor again? If you don't work, you don't get paid, man. Admittedly, I thought that was funny. It gave me a pretty nice chuckle, but sadly, the whole whimsical charm of 31st century humor ends as the episode gets worse from there. The next scene is with Bender, Leela, and Fry arriving back from their delivery. They land the Planet Express ship, which happens to be a big bloated Jack Black. Oh, and not the usual gag where it's a head of either a real life celebrity, politician, public figure, false idol, but just Jack Black in a graining style caricature. And even wearing a blue t shirt, trying to act as if he's Steve from Minecraft, even voiced by himself. I paused the episode and tried to look up what this was even a reference to, and it turns out that it's based on his portrayal in that Minecraft movie. You know, uh, that one with Epstein's Island in it. I've also found out that movie isn't going to come out on April 2025. But instead, it's coming out on 9/11. Curse you, Project 2025. Even the poster of said movie had the block looking planes hitting the blocky Twin Towers and another in a blocky Pentagon. I can't take this anymore, so I needed to calm myself down by turning off the computer, taking a warm bath, playing the entire Dark Side of the Moon album while watching Norbit on mute just to sink in with said Pink Floyd album. I came back and watched the rest of the episode, and it got worse from there. While the trio were delivering some one off gags, the scene cuts back inside the Planet Express, but with more muted colors. The camera slowly pans to Zoidberg laying his head down in depression. Also, Amy was seen with a bruised up face and a casket in her left hand. Hermes was looking down in his legs in disappointment, and Farnsworth is seen lying on his floating chair as usual, but looks more dead than asleep. Makes sense, he's really old. Zoidberg slowly walks to the counter and drags on for possibly 15 seconds with no sound effects. I know this because I still have the volume up on my laptop while watching this, and there was actual sound in the episode, but just this part there was silence. As if it was trying to be more like the late 70s Russian art film Stalker, where things get more bizarre. He's seen at the sink washing his face, but still looking a bit disorganized. The sound came back once Amy began to speak, saying, Zoidberg, are you okay? You don't feel so good. Zoidberg tried to respond, but he then breaks down crying. Oh, ho, 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 ho. One of the running gags for Zoidberg was that his depression was due to loneliness and that he had no home to live other than dumpsters. However, this episode does not explain as to why he's depressed. In fact, he just is for the sake of being sad. Hmm. 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 When Bender, Fry, and Leela returned back to the Planet Express, there was some animation error, I presume, where Leela suddenly had two eyes. But not only that, her eyes were way more bloodshot. She was looking jittery, nervous. She slowly walked to Zoidberg and asked him if everything was all right. Zoidberg then lectures, I've been the company's scapegoat and martyr for far too long, and I've always hated it. During his speech, the camera panned into his face looking more hyper-realistic than it was, in fact, animated by Pixar. I know this because I checked that episode's credits, and it's a surprise collab effort. I could even see something on the Planet Express TV that the crew were watching where a character that oddly resembles Lightning McQueen was spitting bars against Satan in some sort of rap battle that takes place in hell. Seems familiar. Sounds like a day in my life. I've been such a fucking mess! A fucked up mess! Whoa, he cursed in a kid's show? Futurama is a show for children. How is there so much fucking swearing? I know this because I am a 45-year-old individual who watches essay videos on how animation is for adults and turns around by liking modern animated crap for kids. The camera zooms deeper into his skull and the animation suddenly turned into AI. If you need me, I'll be in the doctor's office. You know, just rummaging through the place. He crab walks with the usual whoop, 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 but in a very depressing state. But the animation here looked cheap and unfinished, looking like some half baked anime influenced show on Netflix based on an existing IP. The animation suddenly switches back to normal once the rest of the crew were sitting down as if nothing happened, with Bender sarcastically commenting, Puh, I feel bad for you, Zoidberg. Anyway, the crew looked at him in irritating fashion, noticing his sarcastic remark. Okay, that part also made me laugh, to be honest. Only two good jokes in one episode? And then I realized something. This was a Hulu episode all this time, which explains why it's unfunny and boring. It didn't need to be scary, except it was. as the episode suddenly blacked out and switched to Fry, having no eyes and smiling widely. The animation switched again to some bad animation. It was done by some teenager, I guess, on YouTube. By the next scene, where Zoidberg just wrecks up the Planet Express doctor's office. Most of the supporting characters from Futurama appeared in the background, floating for no reason while a techno version of Hava Nagila plays in the background. In the next scene, the animation goes back to normal, and the episode cannot make up its mind with quality. He runs to the garbage dumpster while carrying a shotgun. He climbed up to see if he could cheer himself up with a rotting fish to eat, but by accident, he pulled the trigger of his shotgun and shot himself. Hearing gunshots, the crew ran to the dumpster only to reveal the horrors that happened to himself. Leela murmurs, "Zoidberg is dead." The crew hold hands in a moment of silence before fading to the next scene. By the next morning, we see the same funeral home in the episode where Fry gets stung by a bee. And the Planet Express crew, the citizens of Decapod 10, including both Ambassador Mervyn and Harold Zoid, and the majority of minor and or supporting characters mourning the loss of Zoidberg for the remainder of the episode. The episode slowly fades, then the text reads, oh shit, really? Yeah, it did. The text read, "Happy Halloween from Futurama," in the show's usual text font, all caps. But this doesn't seem like an actual Halloween episode. It wasn't even promoted by either network. That this was a special Halloween episode. I was furious, scared, confused. I had to rip that video file to my external drive. Luckily, I live close to the Hulu headquarters at the heart of the child diddlers and nepotism in Los Angeles. California needs to be flooded in a tsunami, by the way. Apparently. Wow. Anyway, I scheduled an appointment with the execs over at Hulu as at the time of telling you this, coming up with this, letting you know. Well, they're still airing new episodes and also have every Futurama episode on record. The next day, I'd arrived there for my appointment, explained to the executives about the episode. At first, they thought I was insane, took too many pills, haven't been sleeping lately. You know, like someone who actually likes to watch Disenchantment. I was just making up stories from a horse's ass. Their words, not mine. But then I showed them the episode from my external drive, as one of the executives was kind enough to let him use it as his laptop as well. We were watching it together, and boy, oh boy, was he scared shitless. The execs, however, have no recollection as to how it was made. That neither Groening or his Futurama cast and crew ever remembered working on such a program. Then again, maybe DiMaggio's lying because he wants a raise. I did tell him that this was not some stupid made-up fan project from a schizo or guy who actually has a horse-ass fetish like Tim Walls. But at any event, all of this was, debunked. One of the execs still has the video file to this day and has vowed to never view it to the public nor tell anybody, especially the show's cast and crew, about this. Except for me, that is. I broke the mold. Anyway, the episode is currently in the hands of P. Diddy, who's watched it in a prison cell, along with his bud, Jeff Epstein, of whom he met in his private island, the latter of which met Matt Groening. So, by the associate property, I think you and I can reach one obvious conclusion. Face it. Futurama's ruined. President Trump has asked me to take the tetrazine out of the ballots in the voting booths
And that was a big reason why I chose to join him and, well, suspend my campaign in the states that I chose to take my name off the ballot. And I attempted in some other states, but it didn't make a difference because the fucking judge wouldn't take my fucking name off. What the fuck, man? I fucking asked to take my name off, bitch. Take off the fucking name. Oh, wait a minute. I got a letter in the mail. Let's see it. Dear Bobby, I am going to infest your brain when you reach the White House. Sincerely, Brainworm. Ah, fuck.